Okay, my name is Andra Haman. My student number is 160074, and this is my game pitch. My game is a rhythm RTS. With this, I mean that the game is RTS that instead of using seconds for unit production, for example, where a unit produces every X amount of seconds, now it's on a specific beat. So every drum hit, for example, a unit would progress, and then after 5 drum hits, the unit would get produced. Instead of having to wait 15 seconds, it's 5 drum hits. What this allows is that you can scale the difficulty or speed or rate of the game simply by, in the pre-game, selecting a different beat per minute. You can also slow down the game in a similar fashion. The game is set in an alien planet. It is a planet with tribal natives living there. Then a space stage civilization invades. The game then progresses in the lush plant environment and nature life where the natives defend the homeland against the invaders from space. Yeah. So why this project, or why this project should get produced, is because it's a unique concept. There is no other rhythm-based RTS out there. It's also somewhat of a rare genre these days. There aren't a lot of RTSs coming out, nor are most of the RTSs well planned. Another reason why, which is more applicable to the circumstance of the development rather than the project itself, is because there's already frameworks that I created that allows this project to come to fruition easier than having to be developed from scratch. Now, the limitations of this project is that it will involve relatively long balancing times. Because it's very time sensitive with the rhythm and being able to adjust the beats per minute and still make all the mechanics function together, it will take quite some time to get everything perfectly balanced. Another limitation of this project is that it requires a lot of graphical assets, be that foliage in the world or specific different characters and classes of characters as well. So another limitation of this is that there are already frameworks in place, as mentioned before, because now all that remains is designing mechanics and designing how units function together and all that, rather than actually creating the systems. So it's limiting in that aspect. So how the game will function is that it's the classic RTS in the way that you have buildings, then you have units, and buildings that produce units you can control in armies and swarms to attack your opponent. I have a technical demo. So up there you can see how the beats progress and how units function on the beat. So you can select units, deselect units. Yeah. So some of the frameworks already in place include the selection and deselection of units, the rhythm system, and UI system that's very modular. So in this example, the UI is defined here. The UI is defined in the basic layout, and then simply on each unit you connect the text you want, and then it appears in there. So, for example, there is a default showing text and text when the unit is selected. The rhythm system consists of, you can define on what beat it does what. In this instance, the unit would step as well as play some sound. So let's play that. Finding the right unit. So there we can hear this unit has a beat. So if each unit has their own beat, then the music has a base layer as well as a layer of every unit. So as you move around in the scene, your soundscape adjusts according to how strong certain types of units are, or how many of a certain type of unit is in the scene. So for example, if we were to select two people with cymbals and allow them to make noise, then the closer we get to the cymbal units, the closer the noise gets. Yeah. Yeah, that's the game concept. Any questions? Anything that's unclear?
Do you have a sort of spectrum analyzer? Just beats?
How do
Do you have do you take into account like treble or anything like that as well?
It's clear. So I'm not generating music. I'm simply using a system where I have a beat pattern or an empty timeline basically. This here would be the timeline. So then what you do is you define where in the timeline of 16 beats that repeats. As you saw up in the top where the bar repeated, that is the timeline. So on each of those on the timeline, each one of those points is a beat. So here I define the character walks in that beat, and he plays this sound sample. So it's not generating sound, it's using sound samples played at a specific point to create a sound. Yeah. So yes, one can take it into consideration by simply changing the sample to something with high or low treble.
So if you have multiple units,
Yes.
each on a different beats or a different track, then you could end up having like basically like an impressive orchestra kind of
Yes.
things going.
Yes, one can do that. I am not a composer, so this is going to sound absolutely horrible because I did not plan the beats correctly, but so the trick comes in with, if you actually time them right to sound like music, then you end up with music. But you need to know how music works to do that, which I do not yet.
Is the aim of it to make music?
The aim of it is to be a rhythm-based RTS. So, for example, if you have a building that produces units, then the building you define, I want this building to, let's just go to new empty. I want this building to produce a unit once. That would be once every 4 seconds that it produces a unit. But if we now change the beats per minute to 75, 75. Now everything's slower. Yeah. So it slows down then because the beats per minute is actually slow. Yeah. The aim is not to create music, but to have a game that functions as an RTS without having RTS. Without having actual seconds to work. So it's a lot faster paced than the classic RTS in the sense of that you get a unit once every 4 seconds instead of waiting 15 seconds. But then if you want a bigger unit, for example, the strongest unit you can get for your chosen race or faction, then you have a step-based timer that every activation beat has, where did I put it? Every activation beat is then a tick adds to the unit, and when all the ticks are full, the unit gets produced.
I envision a mess noise. But okay, on the other hand, what I think could be very interesting is like if you had some sort of spectrum analyzer that, let's say, took your playlist and adjusted or changed the pace of the game based on the music that it hears, then you can cheat. Well, no, not necessarily. Not if heavy units only work on bass and light units only work on treble. So if you're listening to something that's in the treble, you're going to have more active light units, but they're not necessarily going to be more effective. Yeah, I guess that's
So
So you end up with a drum and bass song, and you've got heavy and light units at the same time.
But then, like, you could adjust it to the beats per minute, because if it's a higher beat per minute, then your units can produce faster, but then they'll be less effective. Or you can have a slower beat per minute and it can be stronger units, but less of it. So you could balance it out.
So theoretically, yes, this is possible because Unity has a built-in thing that allows you to analyze the current step in the song, the current point. So yes, it is possible you can build in new features, but I excluded that simply for scope of this project. Because having a spectrum analyzer is it's a lot of time.
I think, speaking of scope, it would be better to just stick to like a tribal setting, I think.
That's simple to do.
And even the enemy should just be a different tribe.
Yeah.
And then, because then you've got the whole drums and energy built up, and that would be cool.
Yeah, but simplistic enough to add.
Yeah. But what are you thinking is going to be the most fun aspect of the game?
The most fun aspect of the game is managing how units interact. Because you have one unit that does its action on, for example, this beat pattern. But you have another unit that does its action on this beat pattern. So you have one unit that is a lot faster than the other unit in its actions, but it's a lot weaker. So it's about strategizing how your units are, in what aspect are they stronger and what. Yes. And then seeing and listening how your opponent structured his army, and then formulating your army of units based on his army. And because units are produced quite fast, it's very easy to quickly create an army, bash them against the enemy. Oh, that didn't work. New strategy. Let's go. So being able to quickly cycle your strategies and plan according to your opponent and quickly, dynamically react is a core component of the game.
Cool. Stop the recording.